Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. This time we're diving into a topic that's super important to me, the myth that autistic people are lazy.
Oh, yeah, definitely a big one.
Yeah, you guys sent in some really interesting articles about autism, and we're going to use those to kind of explore the concept of task initiation avoidance, which we're going to unpack in a minute.
Yeah.
But this isn't just some abstract idea. Like I've seen firsthand how this misconception hurts people.
Oh, yeah.
And it's time to understand the real reasons behind the behaviors that people misunderstand as laziness.
Yeah, I think that's something that, I mean, through my work focusing on the neurological underpinnings of autism,
Yeah.
I think we're going to be able to shed some light on that today.
Awesome. I love it. So let's start by getting a good grasp on this task initiation avoidance idea.
Okay.
I think we can all relate to the feeling of procrastination, right? Like,
Yeah.
that giant work project is looming, or even just a sink full of dishes,
Right.
and suddenly you find yourself doing anything else. So how is this different for autistic people?
Well, for a lot of autistic people, it's not just procrastination. It's a lot more challenging.
Okay.
And one of the articles you sent in actually highlights a study that used brain imaging.
Wow.
And they were able to show that autistic individuals, a lot of times they have less activity in the areas of the brain that are responsible for planning and initiating tasks.
So there are actual neurological differences at play here.
Yeah,
It's not just a matter of willpower.
right.
That's a game changer in terms of how we even begin to understand this. Now, the article also mentioned something called sensory sensitivity.
Right.
Can you explain what that is and how it plays into this?
Absolutely. So sensory sensitivity is a common experience for people with autism.
Okay.
And it basically means that their brains process sensory information differently.
Okay.
So things like sounds and lights, textures, even smells.
Yeah.
They could be perceived a lot more intensely than they are by neurotypical people.
Oh.
So imagine you're in a crowded room, a noisy room, and every conversation, every sound, every flickering light just feels amplified.
Right.
That kind of sensory overload can make it incredibly difficult to focus
Yeah.
and initiate tasks.
That makes a lot of sense. I can definitely see how that would make it hard to even just begin to organize your thoughts, let alone your actions.
Yeah.
I remember reading in one of these articles, too, about how autistic individuals might be particularly sensitive to certain textures or sounds that most people wouldn't even notice.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And there's actually research showing that that input, that sensory input, actually triggers a stress response
Oh, wow.
in some autistic people.
Hold on. So it's not just an annoyance. It's actually creating a physiological response
Right?
that makes those everyday tasks even more challenging.
It does.
Yeah, this definitely changes the way I think about those lazy accusations.
Absolutely. And then on top of that, if we layer something called executive function difficulties,
Okay.
the picture becomes even more clear.
Okay, break that down for me. What exactly are executive functions?
Well, think of them as like the brain's management team.
Okay.
They're responsible for planning, organizing, starting and stopping actions,
Wow, okay.
controlling impulses, and staying focused.
So they're basically helping us manage our thoughts and behaviors to achieve goals.
Exactly.
Okay, so if those executive functions aren't working as smoothly,
Right.
then it would make even the simplest of tasks feel overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of the articles you provided had this powerful analogy. Imagine trying to start a car with a faulty ignition system.
Oh.
It's not that the car is incapable of running. It's that that essential mechanism for starting the engine isn't working properly.
Got it.
And it's kind of similar to what a lot of autistic individuals experience with executive function challenges and task initiation.
Okay, yeah, that's a really great way to visualize it. So it's not about being lazy or lacking motivation. It's about having a different neurological wiring
Right.
that impacts the way tasks are perceived and approached.
Yeah, and that's before we even get into the emotional component.
Okay, yeah.
The article also brought up the role of anxiety and fear of failure in task initiation avoidance.
Right. And I think it's easy to just dismiss those as feelings,
Right.
but the article explained how these emotions can actually create physical sensations that make starting anything feel impossible.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Absolutely. So when we experience anxiety, our body goes into like a fight or flight mode.
Okay.
And this can manifest in different ways, like a racing heart, shallow breathing, muscle tension, even dizziness. Imagine trying to start a complex task when your body is basically telling you to run away.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
incredibly
So
difficult.
it's not simply a mental block, it's a full body experience
Right.
that makes those tasks feel overwhelming, maybe even physically impossible.
Exactly. And for some autistic individuals, the fear of failure can be particularly intense.
Yeah.
And it leads to a cycle of avoidance that further reinforces those feelings of anxiety.
That makes sense. So it's like a vicious cycle that can be incredibly hard to break free from.
Yeah.
This really underscores how judging someone as lazy completely misses the point of what's going on.
It does. It's not only inaccurate, but
Yeah,
it's also incredibly damaging.
for sure.
Instead of jumping to judgments, we need to cultivate empathy
Right.
and understanding. And that means recognizing that autistic people aren't choosing to avoid tasks.
Yeah.
They're grappling with a complex interplay of neurological differences, sensory sensitivities, executive function challenges, and emotional responses
Right.
that make task initiation particularly difficult.
You've painted a really clear picture of what's going on beneath the surface. It's clear there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. But knowing the problem is only half the battle, what are some of the solutions that the article suggested?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. There are practical strategies and tools that can make a huge difference,
Okay.
not just for autistic individuals, but for anyone struggling with task initiation.
Awesome. I can't wait to hear about those.
Yeah.
So we've established that lazy is definitely not the right word here. But what can we do to help? The articles you sent mentioned some practical strategies, and I'm really curious to hear more about those.
Absolutely. It's empowering to know that even though these challenges are real, they're not insurmountable.
Yeah.
One of the most effective approaches is something called task breakdown,
Oh, okay.
and it's exactly what it sounds like.
Break it down for me.
You take that big, overwhelming task,
Yeah.
and you break it down into smaller, more manageable steps. And the article actually cited a study
Okay.
where researchers taught autistic individuals to use this strategy,
Okay.
and the results were pretty remarkable.
Oh, wow.
Participants who learned to break tasks down reported significantly less anxiety,
Okay.
and they were much more successful in completing their goals.
That makes so much sense. I mean, even for someone who isn't autistic, that mountain of laundry feels a lot less intimidating when you just focus on sorting the socks first.
Exactly. And it plays right into those executive function challenges we talked about.
Yeah.
By breaking things down, you're essentially reducing the cognitive load required to get started.
So it's like creating a step-by-step roadmap for your brain to follow,
Yeah.
instead of just facing this giant, overwhelming obstacle. Love that. What else did the article suggest?
Well, another powerful tool is establishing routines.
Okay.
And this isn't just about being organized. It's
Right.
about creating predictability and reducing anxiety.
Yeah?
One of the articles highlighted the experience of a young autistic man
Okay.
who struggled immensely with getting ready for school each morning.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
It wasn't until his parents worked with him to create a very specific routine,
Okay.
like laying out his clothes the night before, having the
Mm.
same breakfast each day, even setting a timer for each step,
Right.
that he was able to manage the morning without meltdowns.
So that routine became like an anchor
Yeah.
for him, providing that sense of stability and control when things would otherwise been overwhelming.
Exactly. And think about it from a neurological perspective.
Yeah.
When you have a routine, your brain doesn't have to work as hard to figure out what comes next.
Oh, okay.
This frees up mental energy for other things,
Yeah.
like actually initiating those tasks.
That's so fascinating. I'm definitely a creature of habit myself.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that having a set schedule really helps me reduce my anxiety and just stay on track. But I'll admit, I used to think visual aids were just for super organized people, not for me. These articles really changed my perspective on that.
Oh, visual aids are incredibly powerful tools. They can be especially helpful for autistic individuals who might process information more visually than verbally.
Right. One of the articles gave the example of a student who used a visual schedule to help manage her school day.
Oh, yeah.
It had pictures of each class, break time, lunch, everything. And she said it made a world of difference in reducing her anxiety and helping her stay focused.
That's a great example. And, visual aids don't have to be complicated.
Right.
They can be as simple as a checklist, a calendar, even just a sticky note reminder.
Yeah. I've actually started using a whiteboard calendar to keep track of my appointments and deadlines. And it's amazing how much less I stress about forgetting things now. It's like having an external brain
Yeah.
that helps me stay organized. So we've talked about breaking down tasks, establishing routines, using visual aids. What else can help?
Well, one of the most important and often overlooked aspects of supporting task initiation is cultivating self-compassion.
Yeah.
This is something that resonated deeply with me in those articles.
I can see why. I think we tend to be our own harshest critics, don't we?
We do.
And when you're already struggling with something like task initiation, beating yourself up about it only makes things worse.
Exactly. Self-compassion is about treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding
Right, right.
that you would offer to a friend.
Yeah, yeah.
It's about recognizing that you're doing the best you can with the challenges you face.
So instead of saying, ugh, I'm so lazy, I can't even get started,
Right.
you might say, this is really hard right now, but I'm going to take a deep breath and try my best.
Exactly. And one of the articles even suggested creating a self-compassion mantra
Oh.
that you can repeat to yourself when those negative thoughts start creeping in. Something like, I am worthy of kindness even when I struggle.
Yeah.
Or, it's okay to ask for help.
I love that. It's like giving yourself permission to be human,
Yeah.
to have those difficult moments.
All right.
And to approach them with gentleness rather than judgment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes that gentleness might involve seeking professional support.
Yeah.
This can be a game changer for individuals who are struggling with task initiation, as well as their families.
You're right. It's important to remember that there's no shame in asking for help. In fact, it's a sign of strength and self-awareness.
It is.
What kind of professional support would you recommend?
Well, therapists who specialize in autism can be incredibly helpful in developing personalized strategies for managing anxiety,
Yeah.
improving executive function skills, and building self-compassion.
Right.
Occupational therapists can also be valuable resources,
Okay.
as they often focus on helping individuals develop practical skills for managing daily activities.
So it's like having a coach in your corner.
Right.
Someone who understands the challenges and can help you navigate them effectively. And I imagine that having that support can make a world of difference, not just for the individual, but for their entire support system.
Absolutely.
Mm.
When we feel supported and understood, we're much more likely to believe in ourselves
Yeah.
and our ability to overcome challenges. And that's really what it's all about, creating an environment where everyone can thrive, regardless of their neurodiversity.
That's such a powerful message. So we've covered a lot of ground here. From understanding the neurological underpinnings of task initiation avoidance to exploring practical strategies and the importance of self-compassion, what are some of the key takeaways you want our listener to walk away with?
Yeah, this has been such an eye-opening conversation. I think the biggest takeaway for me is that we need to move away from those harmful, lazy labels and really try to understand, like, the complex factors at play here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. One of the articles actually framed it as like a paradigm shift.
Oh, okay.
Moving from a deficit-based model, where we just focus on what's wrong,
Right.
to a strength-based model
Okay.
that recognizes the unique abilities and perspectives that autistic individuals bring to the table.
I love that. Instead of seeing task initiation avoidance as a weakness, we can start to appreciate the underlying strengths
Yeah.
that might be masked by those challenges.
Mm.
For example, the intense focus and attention to detail that some autistic people possess.
Right.
Those can be incredible assets in the right context. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And those strengths often go unnoticed or undervalued because we're so focused on the challenges.
Yeah.
Imagine a workplace that not only accommodates those challenges,
Yeah.
but actually leverages those strengths.
Yeah.
That's when true inclusion and innovation happen.
That's a powerful vision. It reminds me of something you said earlier about how this conversation goes beyond autism.
Yeah.
You know, these insights about task initiation and sensory sensitivity and executive functioning,
Right.
those are relevant to so many people, even those who aren't on the spectrum.
Absolutely. We all have moments when we struggle to get started,
Right.
when we feel overwhelmed and
Yeah.
we need a little extra support. Recognizing those commonalities can help us build a more inclusive and compassionate society for everyone.
So true. We all have our own unique ways of processing the world and approaching tasks. And instead of judging those differences, we can choose to celebrate them.
Absolutely. And, this deep dive has really underscored the importance of advocacy.
Yeah.
For autistic individuals, self-advocacy is crucial.
Okay.
Learning to communicate their needs, set boundaries, and seek support.
Right.
And for allies, it's about amplifying those voices and challenging those harmful stereotypes.
It's about creating a world where everyone feels seen, heard, and valued for who they are.
Exactly. And, this conversation has really left me thinking about the power of small changes.
Yeah.
Even something as simple as shifting our language from lazy to struggling with task initiation
Right.
can make a huge difference in how we perceive and interact with autistic individuals.
That's such an important point. It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in creating a more inclusive and understanding world.
We do. And sometimes those small changes can ripple out and create a wave of positive transformation.
Well said. This has been a truly insightful deep dive. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us and with our listener.
It was my pleasure. And to our listener, remember, you are not alone. There are resources available, there are people who understand, and there is hope. Never stop learning, never stop advocating for yourself, and never underestimate the power of connection.
Beautifully said. That's it for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.